If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart. Let's get to it, New York.
I still do not know what I just watched. All I know is the Knicks are now one win away from an NBA championship. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast where the Knicks just pulled off the biggest comeback in NBA Finals history to beat the Spurs in Game 4, to now give themselves a 3-1 series lead, and now are just one win away from winning their first title in 53 years. This was a win of epic proportions. This was one of the most improbable wins the Knicks, maybe, I don't think one of, this is the most improbable win in the history of the franchise. Maybe you want to talk about Game 7 against the Lakers in 70 with Willis being injured, but this was unreal. And this is going to be one of those games that's going to go down in the history books. This is going to be one of those plays from OG Anunoby that when we think about the history of New York sports, we talk about the catch by David Tyree. We talk about Reggie Jackson's 3 home runs. You want to talk about so many of those great Yankee plays that you can think of. You want to talk about Mookie Wilson hitting the ball and going through Buckner's legs. Like OG Anunoby skying through Spurs defenders to tip the ball in on an offensive rebound to give the Knicks a 1-point lead down the stretch. It is going to be a play that will be spoken about for eternity here in New York City, and it will be talked about forever in the NBA with the historic nature of this Knicks win. Of course, still job not finished, and there's a lot to get to. There was a lot of bad to start this game for the Knicks. So series is far from over, but what an incredible win. I mean, this is one of those days where it's like I love doing this, but it's almost a challenge because it's like, what do you even say after something like that? You're almost speechless. But credit to the team for fighting back. Credit to the Garden crowd. I knew there was at one point they were a spattering of boos, I think, towards the end of the first half. But for the most part, man, they tried multiple times trying to get the team going. And any time they made shots, even when they were down 20-plus points, they were trying to rev up and get the guys back into the game. So they never quite gave up. They never quite left the show. And the guys gave them a reason to cheer at the end. But an incredible game, incredible performances by several individuals, and we'll get to it all. But, of course, again, this is Orange and Blue Bloods, New York Knicks podcast, hosted by your boy EJ Stewart. If you enjoyed this episode, of course, you can find these episodes wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you are getting your podcasts. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the auto download feature, and give me a 5-star review if you can. I greatly appreciate it. Also, be sure to head over to the YouTube channel if you want to watch the video episodes, because we post the full video episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods on the New Generation Media YouTube channel. New Generation Media YouTube channel. Just search New Generation Media and New Generation. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. Comment in the comment section what you thought about this historic Knicks win, which will also be remembered as a historic Spurs collapse. And let me know what you think is going to happen in the rest of the series. But give a shout out to your boy. Again, you can comment on YouTube. These videos get posted in full on the New Generation Media YouTube page. So, again, Knicks win a game that, again, will be spoken about forever. And it's funny. It kind of reminds me a lot of Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, where I'm sitting there watching this game like you probably, unless you're a Spurs fan, who I don't know why you'd be here. That's pure masochism type behavior. But if probably sitting there, if you're a Knicks fan, miserable, thinking like, man, I actually literally turned off the TV at halftime, not because I wasn't gonna turn it back on. I couldn't hear the analysis of the game. I was like, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about what just happened. I just want the game to go back to playing and just see how this thing goes to the end. But if it were not for this team, I would have never even had any thought about them making a comeback. But I posted that thing on social media, on X. I was like, what number does the score have to get to by the time the fourth quarter starts for you to think they have any shot to win this game? My number was 16. They went down 27 points in this game going into half. They were down 29 points in the third quarter, which again was the largest lead in the game, and now becomes the largest deficit that was ever overcome by an NBA team in the NBA Finals. I said my number was 16. They got that number down to 15. And what the Spurs did offensively in the second half is just polar opposite of what the first half was. They scored just 14 points in the third quarter, 16 points in the fourth quarter. That is 30 points. I mean, it was going to, as much as the Knicks needed to make shots, needed to open up their offense, it was also going to take a historic poor offensive performance from the Spurs in the second half for the Knicks to have any shot to make that comeback. They cut it to 16. Spurs continued to miss shots, and they obliged. They put together one of the worst halves offensively of basketball we've probably seen in an NBA Finals ever. Like, and that's crazy considering, like, you say, oh, well, what about those rock fights in the 90s? Or, like, I'm sorry, 30 points and a half in the second half of an NBA Final. I'm sure it's happened before, or sure it's in the realms of probably some other bad first halves. But to do that in 2026 is insane. And what you saw in the first half from the Spurs was them taking the Knicks completely to the woodshed. First of all, it's another game where the refereeing, I don't know what to say. They give Karl Anthony Towns 2 extremely ticky-tack fouls. One they actually overturned to give him an offensive foul, to give him 2 fouls in the first minute of the game. So Knicks already playing behind the 8 ball, and it felt like the team just never got into a rhythm once that happened. It's not to make an excuse for it. I'm just telling you what I thought happened. I thought that happened. They were like, oh, what are we doing? Mitchell Robinson's in the game way earlier. He got gassed super fast. It was a absolute mess. The Knicks played 4 centers in the first half. You had Ariel Harporty playing minutes in the first quarter. You had Jeremy Sohan playing minutes in the second quarter. Like, this was insane. So this couldn't have gone any worse in terms of the Knicks, in terms of how this game started. Refereeing was crazy. The fouls on Cat. They missed the goaltending. They missed an offensive interference. It wasn't so much Knicks not getting foul calls. They did shoot a lot of free throws. It was just these, like, random oddball plays that have to be called or shouldn't have been called to the Knicks, and they kept going. Everything went the Spurs' way, and it was kind of insane. Like, again, the goaltending on Cornette is one I'm never going to understand. But so the Knicks once again got zero help from the referees, zero. And not to say you should be looking for help, but this was extreme even for how this series is going. Again, I keep saying, I don't know if I want to say this was the worst officiated game I've seen, but that first half was extremely suspect. The only reason why it would not have been a really big part of the story had the Spurs taken care of business in the second half is because they were thoroughly outplaying the Knicks. I felt like the Spurs were playing on rookie mode on 2K. Or this was he's on fire on NBA Jam, because everything they threw up went in. Now, the Knicks defense was not good. I didn't think they were getting into people. I didn't think they were making them feel them. I don't know why they were allowing them to get into the paint so easily, or why they were allowing them to get so deep, whether it was Harper getting deep into the paint, Fox getting deep into the paint. Like, you got to stop those guys earlier, instead of them getting all the way to the basket, because now the defense has to collapse, and that's going to leave guys open for threes. They were beating the Knicks too often clean off the dribble, and because the Knicks couldn't contain the dribble, they were able to find open shooters. The Knicks contests were okay, not great. And this was one of those games where this team they shot at a level they don't normally shoot. Like, they just were making everything. I was like, this is insane. Like, I know the Knicks aren't making shots, so this is not helping. But they are having an opportunity to, at least for most of that stretch, get playing against a half-court offense. And the Spurs half-court offense the first half was pristine. It was as immaculate as you could be for a first half. Knicks just absolutely shredded. Absolutely shredded. The only thing they kind of had going was that Jalen Brunson kind of started to get a little bit of an offensive rhythm, which turned out to be a big factor towards the end of the game, as we now know. But that was the only thing they had. Jalen Brunson, he was 6-14 in the first half. He was the only guy that besides OG Anunoby who continues to, again, just be a godsend for this team. Those were the two only guys playing. To be honest, those are still the only two guys who really scored the ball a ton in this game. But that was really the only silver lining. I don't even want to call that a silver lining because it was a poo-poo platter performance from the first half of the Knicks. And then the second half starts, and the Knicks, all of a sudden, they start to make some shots. Spurs, I thought, got cold, obviously. I also thought they were very sloppy with the ball. They started turning the ball over, which they were not doing at all. That was another thing that told me how poor the Knicks defense was. They were not disruptive. This was a team, and I know the Thunder are like an otherworld defense. I know the Knicks have a good defense. It's Thunder on another planet. But this was a team that was a turnover machine against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the last two games, except for, well, I guess a game and a half, they were way comfortable. It was like this team was not throwing the ball away at all. Their handles was tight, weren't playing in crowds. No, Knicks weren't causing any deflections, any kind of hassle. And that was a sign to me when Mike Breen was like, that's their first turnover and whatever. Or whatever. It's like, he said he made a play after one of the first turnovers of the second half. He's like, that's like only their third turnover of the game. Knicks have 10. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like, Knicks are throwing the ball over the yard still, again. And the Spurs are not facing any resistance defensively. They're getting any shot they want. It was like the Knicks were almost pretending, or not pretending. It's almost like the Knicks were just hoping they would miss. Dylan Harper all of a sudden being, Michael Redd, not something you normally expect, but he was making shots. And Devin Vassell he's a good shooter. Like, I don't know why the Knicks were content allowing him to get a lot of good looks. This is what he's on the court for, and he was making shots. Ironically, this really wasn't Champagne's the guy that normally hurts them. He actually really didn't do much in this game, and he kind of got buried in this game, surprisingly, because he's usually the guy that hurts the Knicks. But everyone else, Fox was hitting everything. They all were just red hot. Victor Wembanyama hit a couple of threes. But again, the second half changed. The Knicks picked up their defensive intensity. They started to get some stops. I thought the Spurs that certainly laxed both on offense and on defense. And because Jalen Brunson had gotten into that rhythm in the first half, I think it really helped them in that third quarter. Because he got going again. He had 8 points in the third quarter. And OG, they never turned off the water on those two guys. And that's going to be something, I think, for the Spurs. And they're going to have a lot to talk about. But for all the things that were going on that first half that was good, the fact that Brunson and OG were still comfortable despite the blowout, that ended up being a problem because those guys were still locked in. And they started scoring when the Spurs stopped scoring. And they couldn't find a way to consistently get stops in that third quarter. But then the fourth quarter comes, and the Knicks had cut that lead down to 15. And Mike Brown makes the adjustment of all adjustments. And it's an adjustment that I called for, and I was so mad after I recorded. And I love doing these shows, and I feel like doing these shows after the game, sometimes, like, I'm going pretty much right after the game starts. I'm literally just waiting to cut sounds for you guys to hear. By the way, you will hear from Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Victor Wembanyama, and Mitch Johnson in this recap show. But because of that, I'm kind of trying to really kind of collect my thoughts as I'm working and then just hitting the record button and saying go. I was really mad I didn't mention something that I was watching during the game 3, and I was like, you know what? They need to find a way to get some 2-point guard lineups in there. I'm pretty sure I didn't say it on the podcast. The Knicks, in the 3 games they played San Antonio in the regular season, one of those games including the NBA Cup final, in each game, they played extended minutes with both point guards playing at the same time. Whether it was Jalen Brunson and Tyler Kolek, or it was Jalen Brunson and Jose Alvarado. In all 3 games, those lineups did extremely well. The Knicks lost one of those games, and one of those lineups still did extremely well. Kolek had the, kind of like one of the Tyler Kolek games of the season during the NBA Cup final. Jose Alvarado, this was, he was kind of new in the team. One of his big early games he had was against San Antonio on a Saturday on ABC, or Saturday or Sunday, is one of those weekend days on ABC, and he was awesome, and him and Brunson played a lot together. And the reason why that was going to be important was because it was going to force San Antonio to defend more honestly with 2 primary ball handlers, because Jose Alvarado does a good job dribbling against ball pressure, or at least he has against this team. And what that allowed was for Jalen Brunson to also play a little bit more off the ball, especially in the fourth quarter. And with as hot as he was, you wanted him. This was a day where you wanted him under a shot, because you were not getting anything from Karl-Anthony Towns. He got taken out of the game with those fouls, and he just never. His effort was good defensively, and he fought, but he wasn't giving them much. He had a huge step back three in the fourth quarter, but besides that, he just really wasn't going to give them anything offensively in this game. It seemed like Josh Hart. We'll get to Josh Hart, but it was a weird game from him, and he had some extreme gaffes at the end of this game. There was no Landry Shamet game. There was no one coming besides OG Anunoby. That was gonna be his road dog for this game. There was no other like random guy coming in, and if you want to say Alvarado was that guy, sure, but there really was no other guy that was gonna come in and all of a sudden hit a bunch of shots and give Brunson some relief. So with the game going the way it did, putting Jose Alvarado in the game to play alongside Brunson was great, because Alvarado was awesome. He did make a couple baskets. He had 8 points in that fourth quarter. He was plus 17 in that fourth quarter. And that lineup of going with Brunson and Alvarado in the backcourt, you could literally see the court open up. Like, you could see the avenues that Brunson had to operate, how different it was, because it was almost like he wasn't going up against such a set defense every time. The Knicks were able to swing the ball from side to side. Jose Alvarado was able to initiate some other actions. They also were able to do some small on small screening that also put the Spurs a little bit in a bind, because they wanted to put Victor Wembanyama in some of those actions to try to because they thought Alvarado was a guy they didn't have to guard, and that gave the Knicks some opportunities to get going. Also, what was important about Jalen Brunson in terms of him getting going in this game was there was a lot of, I think, coaching mistakes on the Spurs. I thought one of them was also trying to put two on the ball late in the game, because Brunson had one really, really bad turnover where he tried to throw like a one-handed pass. Like, I think it was to like Clarkson at the end of the third quarter. And maybe he had another turnover in the fourth, but for the most part, his reads were really good. And I did not like, and I mean, I loved it as a Knicks fan, but because they were playing with such a big lead, putting two on the ball like that, to me, I don't like playing with a disadvantage defensively. You could say I want anybody but Brunson with the way he was going, but I thought that was a mistake. I thought that was a panic move. Like, I think he's hot. Okay, we see that he's hot. You don't want to do what homeboy from Cleveland did, Kenny Atkinson, letting him play on the island with James Harden, but you don't have a James Harden defender on your team. You got all great defenders. I'm going to live with me playing solid team defense and make them play against our five-man defense with Wemby almost being like a 5.5 because he's so long. When you put two on the ball and then the Knicks were able to put Wemby in those actions, once Brunson was able to avoid his hands, Wemby's out of the play, and now it's 4-on-3, and the Knicks were getting some wide open looks that they just had not been getting for the first half of this game or any of the last game. And again, the Knicks haven't had an offensive really explosion yet in this NBA Finals. So the Spurs defense has been great. I don't know what that was about. There were a lot of things Mitch Johnson didn't quite understand. One of the things I thought the Spurs and the broadcast did a good job talking about as well. Spurs got really 3-point happy too. And that's what happens sometimes, man, when you see those three balls go in the way the Spurs were. And again, this is a good shooting team. This is not a great 3-point shooting team. In the first half, they were great. They set an NBA record. 14 threes in the first half is the most ever in an NBA Finals game. That's not the kind of roster I would expect to set a record for NBA Finals three-pointers. You don't want to live with this in your head because that's not how you should play, but there was the thought as I'm watching this game, I'm like, the Spurs have to return to the mean a little bit with this shooting. Like this, I mean, if they keep shooting like this, they're just going to win, and they're going to blow out the Knicks, and that's going to be whatever. But this is not a great 3-point shooting team. They can't keep shooting like this. And I think for a game where you're up 29 points and you take 17 threes in the second half, it's kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, what is that? That is just brain dead basketball. especially when they're not going at a certain point, and especially when you have a guy who's 7'5" playing on the court. Why they weren't establishing Wemby a lot closer, I didn't get. Wembanyama in the second half was abysmal. 3 for 14. He was 1 for 4 from the free throw line. He rebounded well. He's always going to rebound well, but he was terrible. He had one of probably the worst games of the postseason in this game. If you take how bad he was in the second half, Knicks just absolutely took him away. You got to give a lot of credit to Karl-Anthony Towns because while the offense was not there, him playing with 4 fouls and playing solid defense and contesting Wemby and embodying him and just playing the game, just kept playing the game, which is what the Knicks kept doing. Like, I kept thinking, during while I watched this game, I'm like, all right, they got to get this to like 12 by this point, like by like 6 minutes or 7 minutes. I was like, okay, they got to get this to like, I think at one point I said they got to get it to 5 with like 5 minutes left. I think I felt like, and they got it to like 4 with even less. I was like, oh, this is a game now. This is going to be really close here. But what I think was also so impressive about this Knicks win was the Spurs actually also started hitting shots towards the end. Fox hit a massive 3. Wemby, someone else might have made a basket. Again, I don't have the play-by-play in front of me, but they made just a few shots late in that fourth quarter, and they made 2 in a row. Wemby made a mid-range jumper. Wemby did make a jump. He made a mid-range jumper. Fox made a 3, and they were on back-to-back possessions where the Knicks scored. And I was like, damn it, like they just might not have time. They might have run out of time. The league might have just been too big. They're clearly in a situation where they can get this game, but they just might run out of time. The Spurs are now starting to hit some shots. And the fact that the Knicks were able to continue to answer and then once again put the clamps back down and get those big late stops was crucial. Now, I mentioned Josh Hart. He had a couple of really bad moments towards the end of this game. Obviously, the Spurs, again, completely throwing up on themselves. Fox throws the ball to nobody. He throws it right to Josh Hart, and he goes up. It was clearly the in-between of should I dunk or should I lay it up. He probably thought he wanted to dunk. He didn't realize how tired he was and didn't have the legs. And once you're in that position, you're doomed. Why you don't just go off the glass there, I just don't understand at that point in the game. But that was a crucial miss. The Knicks were down 1. I would have given the lead. Luckily, they still got the lead back anyway. But you look at those 2 points, and that's as close as this game was going to be. You're like, I really hope those 2 points aren't the difference in this game. So he had that play. And then he had another massive gaffe, which was not boxing out Stephon Castle on a missed jump shot. And Castle gets an offensive rebound. He had the wherewithal to at least foul him to make him shoot free throws, but he made those free throws. And those were tough plays. Those were really tough plays. It wasn't, what I did like was after the foul, I think Josh is on the floor. He has his hand in his head, so like he knew like this was now kind of becoming a little bit of a meltdown with how he finished this game. I love that. They look like almost all 4 of the guys on the Knicks, I think. I definitely saw Brunson and Cat and a third guy. All ran to him, was like, hey, man, like, this game is not over. Relax. Like, we need you. Like, keep your head back in the game. Like, it showed, again, just how different from the first half was. They were so dialed in from the second half on, and I love that they picked up Josh in that moment. He was having a rough final few minutes of that game. So they come back down. The ball ends up getting loose on a miss on a rebound. And again, another Spurs mistake that I can't really explain. Don't know why. And it's tough because I actually am usually for a player being aggressive to get the layup because you don't know if you're going to make 2 free throws. Like, at the end of the day, if you have a layup and it's uncontested, some guys like pull it out and it's like, and if you're not going to have a significant amount of time come off, it's like just put the ball in the basket because you can know you can put the ball in the basket with nobody guarding you. But Fox, I don't know, maybe he underestimated OG Anunoby. What's crazy is that we're going to talk about the OG Anunoby tip, but the block shot on the Fox layup when they're down 1 is also should go down as one of the greatest plays in the history of New York sports. Like, this is the fact that this guy had 2 plays in a span of 15 seconds that were super heroic. OG Anunoby he's reached a new stratosphere with how he is playing right now. He's a star. He's an absolute star. He makes that incredible block on De'Aaron Fox, a absolutely silly play by Fox, because if the shot's contested, you can't lay it up. You got to just pull it out. If it's uncontested, you lay it up. Again, maybe he underestimated OG's length, OG's quickness to get to the ball, because OG was flying. And that was an incredible play, but it's a gaffe that you didn't pull it out to just shoot the free throws. Knicks end up getting a rebound. And then I think they kind of lost their mind. Jose Alvarado has the ball, and OG's on the ground. It's kind of a scramble. Knicks are 4-on-5 because OG's on the ground. And Alvarado almost goes backcourt. Fox fouls him, which was actually a kind of a smart play. But I think if he doesn't foul him, he goes backcourt. Like, I think it was not a backcourt violation. The refs were right. It's one of the first things they got right in this game. They're right not to call that a backcourt. But he was going backcourt. Like, that was what was going to happen. And Fox fouls him. So he bailed him out there. So then, obviously, so then they do call a timeout there. But I thought Mike Brown, who, he made some great adjustments in this game to give them a chance. But I thought that was one where I was like, I think he was asleep there. I think you have to call a timeout to get a real play. Also, to give yourself a 2-for-1 chance. Like, they also, because, Alvarado's dribbling the ball at the court, they don't know what to do. He's dribbling around the half-court line. And then he's fouled with 5 seconds left. Now they almost lost their opportunity at a 2-for-1. So that was, I thought, a mistake by Mike Brown, but they overcame that. And then you have the last play. Brunson shoots a ball that I thought was good. I think a lot of people thought was good. Just short. OG, again, flying in. And an incredible performance. Incredible performance by the team. They obviously had to also get a stop in this game. And I couldn't tell what happened on the inbounds play. Maybe I could see another replay. I have to see it probably after the show. But I actually thought Stephen Castle got pretty open on that back screen for a lob. And Karl-Anthony Towns, that was another good move by Mike Brown with putting Karl-Anthony Towns on the ball and putting Mitchell Robinson in the game. So you have 2 7-footers out there. And I felt like maybe Cat tipped it because the ball was nowhere near the rim. And Stephen Castle is a 40-inch vertical. Like that it looked like it should have been an easy dunk. Like, he definitely beat Hart off that play. And because it was short, it ended up being weird. The Knicks ended up getting the stop, and they win this game. But, oh, my God. What can you say? What can you say about this team at this point? And because of the nature of the game and because of how real this series is and how close these games are, even with a 3-1 lead, even with the Spurs collapsing in this way, it still feels like the Knicks are, like, I don't want to say very far away from winning a title, but it still feels like there is a lot of work to be done for them to win, because there are some issues they're gonna have to clean up. They got to clean up these terrible starts. This was the worst of them all, like where they just could not get out of their own way. Lineups had to go out there that don't typically go out there because they're early foul trouble, and it seemed to mess everything up. But this was another start to this game where they're not making shots. Defense was kind of sleepy, and you'll blink and you're down 19 in the first quarter. Like, you just can't keep digging yourself these holes. Like Mike Brown said going into the fourth quarter when you had that interview with Lisa Salters, to have a comeback like that happen, you have to have a little luck, and the Knicks definitely got some luck because the Spurs going as ice cold as they did they're not that bad a shooting team. Like, that is atypical of how they shoot, just like the first half was atypical. Knicks got some luck to allow them to come back in this game, and they made some of their luck. You got to make shots, you got to play defense, you got to play with effort to give yourself a chance. But I mean, these starts to this game, they can't have another start like this. Like, they can't keep thinking that against this team with how well they defend that you'll be able to overcome 29 points. They did it here, and it's a miracle that they did, but that's something that they're absolutely going to have to clean up. I want you guys to hear some sound in this game. Let's hear from OG Anunoby, who is the hero of the game. Asks about the play by Lisa Salters and what he saw.
Got the ball to Jalen. He got a good look, and I just crashed and went for the ball.
You make it sound so easy, but tell me what's going through your mind as it's all unfolding.
Oh, just do whatever it takes to win, I mean, our thing is crashing. I think it's crashing the glass and second chance opportunities. So I just try to make a play.
That was Karl-Anthony Towns, by the way, running in saying, "I love you, man." Karl-Anthony Towns looked like he was on the verge of tears, which I'll be honest, I was on the verge of tears towards the end of that game when OG made that basket. I was like, oh, I had to kind of compose myself. I was like, hey, listen, they gotta get a stop here. But it was an incredible win, and I think there will be. It's good that there are 2 days in between next games because I think for both teams, they're gonna have a come down from this game. Obviously, the Spurs are gonna have to have a come down. Like they got to figure out what just happened. How did we do that? And then also like we have to put that game away and just not even think about it and just get ready for Game 5. That's all we got. And then for the Knicks, I mean, you win a game like that at home with that crowd, which was awesome, like I mentioned earlier. It's gonna be a lot to also rev up and like, hey, put that back and again, go back to the details of how many things went wrong prior to that miraculous comeback. Here was OG, and that sound was courtesy of ESPN. This also is courtesy of ESPN. OG being asked how did the Knicks pull this off?
We're resilient, we never give up, It's a game of runs. They went on a run early. We knew we were going to go on our own run, so we just stayed with it, kept pushing.
Yeah, I mean these guys they're the comeback kids. They're the comeback kings. This is who the Knicks are. This is part of their identity. And again, most other teams, definitely almost any other Knicks team I would have watched, I probably would have felt like this was going to be one of those like vintage fake Knicks comebacks. Where Knicks they are notorious for this. If you're a fan of this organization, where you watch these games where they're down 25, 30, whatever, and they find a way to cut it to like 6 or 7. You're like, oh, this may be a crazy comeback, and it never happens. They're the kings of the fake comeback. Not this group. This group, they're the real comeback kings. You talk about last year, they came back multiple times against Detroit. People forget about those games on the road. They were down double digits in those games. Multiple times down 20 points against Boston last year, the first 2 games of the Eastern Conference semifinals. People always forget about Game 3 in Indiana, down 20 points in the first half on the road. Came back and win to make that a 2-1 series against Indiana. And then this series, they've walked down San Antonio in all 3 wins. All 3 wins, they've been down by double digits at some point. Now, this one being the extreme example, being down as much as 29. And coming in, this is their identity. This is the most resilient Knicks team I've ever seen. This is a team that no lead is safe with the Knicks. It's weird because it's not like the Knicks have this insane firepower. This is definitely not the Warriors of 2017 or anything like that. But they don't quit. They don't give up. They don't throw in the towel. And Jalen Brunson was actually asked about that because Shaq, this is inside the NBA, he said, listen, like, I know you're not a quitter because I've known you for a long time. These are 2 Jersey guys. But he's like, listen, you're down by 29 points. Like, did you ever think, hey, man, this game's kind of over and you let this one go? And Jalen Brunson actually admits that, yeah, he did at one point. Or at least he considered it.
I mean, I thought about it, but then I realized just where we're at. And you're allowed to think. You're allowed to think about the worst possible scenario, but you got to go out there and do something about it. And just having my teammates back, just fighting every possession, just figuring out what we had to do, but not really, just not believing it.
And Jalen Brunson also says basically in terms of why this team was able to make a comeback, he says they never lost faith.
One word that captures that all is just believe. Just believing in each other, believing in the process, chipping away one possession at a time. It wasn't going to be one play to get us back. It wasn't going to be one momentum play, but it was just hitting singles, getting on base, just keep chipping away.
Yeah, and that's what they did. There was not a 29-point shot, and the Knicks knew that, and and I think the great thing about this team being in this moment, no team wants to be down 29 points, including these guys. But because they've had experiences of being down and seeing the other side and finding a way to get a W, they are one of the few teams, maybe in the history of the NBA, that facing that kind of deficit would just keep playing. And especially in this current NBA climate, right? Like, one of the things about the NBA Finals last year, if you remember, there were like those early close games between this Thunder and the Pacers, but then there were a lot of blowouts where both Daigneault and Carlisle were kind of just waving the right flag in the third quarter. They're like, "This game's over. Like, we'll see you next game," and like they don't. It makes sense for those teams. Like, they don't have, besides the Halliburton shot and that like furious comeback, and that was a short time up, down like 11 with like 90 seconds left or 2 minutes left. Like, maybe they don't have the experience of being down these incredible numbers to come back. The Knicks do, and they know that if they keep playing this game, anything can happen, and they ended up getting something that was a huge reward for them, obviously getting the W. The last thing from Jalen Brunson, one of the things I mentioned earlier was that this was the one silver lining about that first half was he started to see some shots go down. He once again did not start great. I think he shot 0 for 3 in the first quarter, I think. But second quarter got going, and he was shooting the ball well in that second quarter. So, and overall, this is by far his best game. It's ironic that this is his best game, and I don't really want to harp so much on the Finals MVP stuff at this point. But it's ironic that he had his best game, and then OG Anunoby plays also his best game, and he makes the shot on the Jalen Brunson miss, and then he has the huge block. So now, if you're looking at the clubhouse, and leading the Finals MVP, after Brunson had passed Karl-Anthony Towns with two kind of, whatever kind of games from him, OG Anunoby's now come surging. So, but that's not really important at this point. But Brunson had 36 points in this game. I mean, he really got it going. 12-25. He was asked by Draymond Green, who was on the set for Inside the NBA, does he feel like he figured this defense out? Here was his answer, where he says he admits that there are aspects of his game offensively that is working better, but the more important thing is how he is leading the rest of the guys.
I feel like I was a little bit more efficient, probably the more efficient I've been in this series tonight, but I'm not really trying individually to figure out. I'm just trying to figure out ways to win games and figure out how to make sure my team has the right mindset going forward. As a leader, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to figure it out. But I got to make sure everyone's just on the same page. We're all fighting. We're all believing, because that's just what's important.
And, Jalen Brunson, we know what kind of leader he is. It's been talked about a ton. And, what I loved about this performance from him, I mean, what I loved about this performance, and Richard Jefferson said it, and maybe it was Tim Legler. By the way, them three guys are killing it. Bravo to the ESPN broadcast team. I would give them a round of applause. They were much maligned last year, and I don't. This is not a Doris Burke hate session. That's not where I'm at. I don't have that kind of beef with Doris Burke, but clearly the chemistry wasn't there. There was something missing. It just wasn't a great call, and I feel like for whatever reason, Legler is just a better fit with Richard Jefferson as the second color analyst, and Breen is Breen. Breen was on one in this call. I'm sure if you're a Spurs fan, this felt like a Knicks call with Breen on it, because I'm thinking like there's like I would love to hear him interviewed about this game, and I know he will at some point, because this is a game for the ages. I wonder if in his brain it's almost like watching a wrestling match, and one of the arguably the greatest match of all time is Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania, and both guys knowing mid-match, not even mid-match, early in the match, that whatever they had planned to do, they had to flip because the crowd was cheering for Hogan. And Hogan had to work babyface in that match in order to get the crowd to be invested in it, because they wanted to cheer Hogan. And Rock had to work heel-ish, not heel, but heel-ish, in that match. And it's an incredible match. One of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history. And I almost wonder in Mike Breen's head if he's like, I know I have to be like non-biased, but like I gotta put some extra stuff in these Knicks shots, these Knicks plays. Like, it almost I think I felt like I heard a couple of times his voice cracking. Like, he was like, what? Because like it was insane what was going on. And it's almost like he turned to the Knicks play-by-play announcer Mike Breen in that last like definitely last like 3 or 4 minutes, which was appropriate. I mean, for me, maybe if you're a national TV person, maybe if you're a Spurs fan, you won't feel that. I felt like for the call, for what was happening, given who was on the call, that change had to happen, and he knew it, and you could hear in his voice. It felt like a little bit more MSG Mike Breen than ESPN ABC Mike Breen. That was kind of how I felt. I'd be curious for those listening, if, get in the comment section or hit me up on social media. Let me know what you thought. But Breen, the whole team I thought was great. With all that rambling, I kind of forgot what I was going to make a point about about what they mentioned. But anyway, no, that team's been phenomenal. And I feel like with the series and where it's at now, big question that remains, is it over? Is this something that San Antonio cannot overcome? Is this something now that you have to say that Knicks got this in the bag, or this is over in 5? Like, is this going to end soon? Here's what I'll say. For the record, my original prediction was Knicks in 6. I'm kind of still leaning there. What I will say is why I don't know if the Knicks, I don't know if the Spurs are cooked in terms of, they can't win the next game or anything like that. Or they can't compete. Clearly they can compete. This is an extremely talented team. I don't think they can win an NBA championship. I don't think this team, with how they play and how they are coached, and maybe this will be words that bite me in the ass, I don't think that they can win 3 games in a row. I don't think that they're going to play smart enough to win 3 games in a row. I don't think I've seen them make too many just ghastly mistakes, to quote Clyde Frazier, to feel like they're going to be able to pull this off. Can they win 1? Definitely. Can they win 2? They can go back to the Garden and win again. We've seen them do it already, and we saw them up 29 points. Do I think this team, in more games that will likely also be close, will they be able to execute down the stretch late in games 3 times in a row against the Knicks? And the Knicks won't execute. Jalen Brunson won't make big shots. I don't see that. I don't think that's going to happen. I hope to God it doesn't happen. It's basketball. They roll the balls out, and the Spurs certainly can win these games, and that's sports. But this is brutal. This is brutal. This was a game they're supposed to get, and it feels like it shifts the entire tenor of the series. Spurs win this game, I think you're feeling like Spurs are favored moving forward. You feel like the Spurs had figured the Knicks out, and that the Spurs would have all the momentum, and now the Knicks would really be kind of searching for answers. They blew it. The only way to describe it, they Donovan Mitchell. Remember Donovan Mitchell at the game 1 when they asked him what he told his team in the locker room. He was like, "I told him we effing blew it," which was I was like, that team is just Cavs. They literally make me laugh. That is a funny group. But with the Spurs, that's how I feel. I'm like, yo, you effing blew it, man. I don't know what to tell you. That's a game you should have won. If you win that game, man, you're in really good shape to be in position to try to win this championship. And you effing blew it. That's the only way to describe what happened in this game. And I really did feel like this was one that the Knicks had lost. I think that the fact that they came all the way back kind of made me feel a little different about where the series was going had they lost this game. When they were down 29, I was like, oh boy, this is really bad. This is really bad. Any good feelings you had about the Knicks, they're not done, but this is going to be the biggest test of adversity this team could ever face, and it's not going to be easy. And I was very concerned. Again, because I've seen them down 29, I've seen the Spurs playing at a high level and points in this series. I'm not in the position where I feel like the series is over. The Knicks have to continue to play. They have to beat this team. The team's not going to just give them the game. Or at least they have to put themselves in a position to win these games. Maybe they'll give it up at the end. Maybe Victor Wembanyama would throw it off somebody's back like he did against Castle or something like that. But they have to play. They have to play, and they have to play relatively well. They have an opportunity now. Up 3-1. This is the kind of cushion you want. Like I said, I don't know if I would say that the Spurs can't overcome this to actually win a game at home in front of their home fans, a game that they absolutely have to win. That wouldn't stun me if they came back and won the next game. Knicks also, this is an incredible high that they have to come down from, and there's a lot of things that they're gonna have to fix. But man, this is tough. This is tough. Let's hear from Mitch Johnson, head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. He was asked basically what went into this loss. How do you lose a game like this? And he said there's basically a multitude of ways that you lose it, but obviously the feeling overall is just frustration.
Just in terms of obviously the circumstances and the stakes of what we're playing for, and to put as much good work into that first half as we did and get the lead that we had and not finish the job is
fourth row
disappointing
second,
to say the least.
And then he was also asked basically, like, at what point in this game did you feel like the momentum the Knicks had was too much to overcome? He says that never really came into his head, that they weren't going to overcome it until the game was over.
I mean, honestly, it's tough. You felt the momentum too much to overcome. I didn't feel that until the clock hit zeros. I mean, there was times where, again, I felt part of that third quarter and then some part probably early, mid in the fourth quarter again, where we got away from playing the brand of basketball that got us the lead. And then you saw the, at times, aggressiveness and the just conviction that we played with early on dissipate a little bit. And they made some shots, and that's where you felt the momentum a little bit. We just needed a few more tough-minded plays to finish the job.
He made that point a couple of times, that in clips that you don't see, that they weren't making tough-minded plays. I don't know if I didn't think they were not playing tough. Like, I didn't. It wasn't like the Knicks were like killing them on the outside of the glass or anything like that. They got ice cold, and some of that I don't know if I really even buy, that they didn't play what had got them there. What got them there was 3-point shooting. Like, they were shooting the lights out, and they went into the second half thinking that they were gonna shoot the lights out again because of how hot they were. And I don't know what the hell happened to them in the second half, or at halftime, but they went ice cold. Like, this is a team in the first half, they made 14 threes, right? I'm trying to get the number here. They made 14 threes, was the record. They shot 26 threes. In the third quarter, they come out, they shoot 12. That's right on par with the amount of threes that they were taking. They just started missing them. They just weren't. There were some that I don't think were great. I remember Harper took a terrible one that was an air ball. They were a couple that weren't great. And then they tried to, in the fourth quarter, they only took 5. They realized, we can't keep doing this. And they were playing with their food way too much. But I don't know if I necessarily agree with the notion that they simply just didn't play their brand of basketball, or at least what had got them to that lead. They got that exorbitant lead because they shot the ball so extremely well. They stopped making shots. And I think some of the guys that were shooting were guys that really, again, Fox, Harper, those are guys you're going to live with shooting 3 balls. Vassell, he's a good shooter, but yes, he got a little cold just like the rest of the team, and that became contagious. That everybody got cold. For as a team, they shot 8 for 39 from the field, 20% in the second half, 20.5%. They were 3 for 17 from 3, 17.6%. I mean, this is an abysmal second half. And again, I thought Mitch Johnson coached a pretty horrendous game. The other thing about the shooting too was to be in a game where the Knicks once again are in the bonus early in the fourth quarter, and they really couldn't make them pay. Like, they're still shooting threes. It wasn't quite as much, but the fact that they weren't attacking the rim and weren't finding a way to draw more fouls. This is a team that is very young. This is a team that I think is showing their youth. This is a team that, we kept saying, youth isn't, people who felt like the Spurs would win this series, and they still might. It's not over, but youth doesn't matter. They got the talent, and they're going to flout a lot of the traditional norms we talk about with the NBA Finals. Well, this was about as much as a youth kills in the postseason loss as there has ever been in the history of the NBA. Ever. So, this is going to be wild. to see where this series goes as it shifts to San Antonio for Game 5. But yeah, I the one thing I wanted to mention too on the 2-guard lineup thing, which was huge in this. Again, Jose Alvarado in that fourth quarter was a plus 17. The only guys that were a higher plus minus in that last quarter were Karl-Anthony Towns, ironically, who was plus 21. You know, he had 5 points, which is not terrible, but it wasn't like he was a huge impact. But Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson was plus 18. But the other biggest plus in that fourth quarter was Jose Alvarado. He was plus 17. I also wondered if the fouls on Karl-Anthony Towns screwed up the lineups where maybe we would have saw that 2-guard lineup in the first half. Because I thought it was kind of weird to go to it in the third quarter. Like, this is something I called for. I thought this should have been a part of the game. Like, this should have been the game plan to me, was for them to play Alvarado and Brunson together a lot in the second quarter. And maybe even some in the first quarter. And they just never got to it. Sometimes when you're chasing the foul trouble, and I haven't heard or seen any Mike Brown quotes, so I don't know if he's admitted this. But to me, like, when you're chasing the foul trouble and your lineups are getting weird, sometimes you kind of have in your brain, like, what lineup you want to play Brunson and Alvarado with together, and they might not have ever had that possibility because Porty's on the court or Sohan's on the court. Like, there's some things where you're like, I can't even get to that. It's almost like in football, like, you'll see this where, like, teams will, like, the first half or the first quarter will go so poorly. Like, whatever your game plan was, or your team, okay, we're going to come out, we're going to want to run the ball and play smash mouth. But if you foam the ball for a touchdown the first play, and then they run, a kick return back, and you're down 14-0, it's kind of hard to go to your original script of plays and say, okay, we're going to run down. Like, no, now you got to kind of chase the scoreboard. I'm curious. I don't know, and it's kind of like a nerdy basketball substitution thing, but I assume if you're listening to this podcast, you're down to get nerdy with me. But I wonder if this was something, because I would otherwise I would crush Mike Brown and say this is something he should have did in the first half. I don't know. This was the adjustment. This to me was a clear adjustment, and they didn't do it. But I want to give him some grace, because I'm like, those lineups got so crazy. Maybe he just didn't have the lineup to go with it with. I would have done it anyway. You had nothing to lose. They were getting destroyed. So I don't know why he waited so long. I also hated waiting for it, and I'm glad he did it. But he went to it so late, I was like, I don't know if the Knicks are going to get a good enough look at this. Because when you're down, you're going to have to play a little desperate. So guys are going to take more chances. Definitely going to take more threes. Like, I was a little worried about what is this actually going to look like going into this game. Like, what is this going to look like when you're down 30 points? Like, Spurs are playing a little laxed. Like, we don't really get the look on this. We don't get the look at this that we would have wanted, with the game being in the balance and all those different things. But it didn't matter. Like, the fact that it was the right move to still go to it. But and I'm glad he did. I almost wonder if if it was part of the game plan that got scrapped because of how the first quarter went. I wonder if he considered maybe just holding it in his pocket until Game 5. Again, for the history of New York sports, we're all very glad that he did not. I'm glad Mike Brown pushed that button still. It's not one I'm not sure I would have. I may have kept it in my pocket and say, I don't want to even show them this. We're down 29 points. Let's show them this in the first quarter of the next game, where it's close. The first quarters are always down double digits, but at least they're not down 29. So that's little things about this. In terms of the rest of the game, in terms of how the team played, I feel like just in terms of performances individually, I feel like Mikal Bridges has been bothered by Victor Wembanyama a little bit. After that dazzling Game 2, this was another just kind of indiscriminate performance. First half, he wasn't. They actually they put him on Fox, and they moved OG around. That was another adjustment that they made. That was important. That was big, that they took OG off of Fox, put him on Vassell, and it had Brunson. Excuse me, it had oh no, they wasn't guarding Vassell. Who was he guarding? I'm trying to think. Yeah, he was guarding Vassell because Brunson was guarding Champagne, and put Bridges on Fox, which is actually how I would have been doing it anyway. Knicks liked the OG Fox matchup. It didn't go well. clearly, the Spurs couldn't miss a shot. They had Hart guarding. Hart was guarding Castle. I think they wanted to also put more strength on Castle because he was getting an advantage on Bridges with his strength. As long and as disruptive Bridges can be with his arms and his hands, Castle was kind of just dribbling through him and finishing through him. So I understood the adjustment. I didn't actually hate the adjustment. It definitely did not work, and they did not go back to that. Fox ended up. OG went back onto Fox in the second half. He guarded him down the stretch, and then outside the 1-3 he hit, he got some huge stops on Fox down the stretch. But yeah, this was again. It was kind of a weird game because there were a lot like it was an indiscriminate game from Bridges. It was kind of an indiscriminate game from Hart. He did have 8 rebounds, which you love to see him rebounding, and he did have 6 assists too. But again, he made some terrible mistakes in this game. And the bench, it was basically just Jose Alvarado. Literally. Mitchell Robinson had 2 points. Mitchell Robinson was also, I thought, kind of terrible in this game. He did start to get some offensive rebounds in the second half. He had 3 total for the game. But, I don't know. Mitchell, I don't know what it was with Wembanyama, but he got into it with Wembanyama. But that was going to be a big story about this game, too. After what happened with the shove of Jalen Brunson, they did not call a flagrant retroactively, which is one of those things that's just completely egregious. I don't even want to waste any more oxygen on it because it's like, what do you even say to that? Like, this is a sport where they talk about forceful contact to the head, forcible contact to the head, wind up, and follow through, and they just looked at that and said no flagrant. It's actually insane. I even would have taken a tech if you didn't want to give him a flagrant because you didn't want to rack up the numbers, and he's getting close to being suspended. He actually got a flagrant in this game, so now if he gets another flagrant, he will be suspended. This flagrant was definitely inadvertent, but he was deserved. Yeah, so he didn't get flagrant, so there's a lot of hoopla about what the Knicks are going to do, and I don't know if this was predetermined by Mitch that he was going to do this before the game. I think it was more he was just getting pissed off because Wemby was eating his lunch. Wemby hit him with a couple of awesome moves, and that move he hit him with the kind of reverse spin into that layup from 10 feet out, but he's so long it feels like a layup. It was beautiful, and then he's drawing at him going up the court. They kept saying he was pointing to his head. I actually think he was pointing to his ear. I assume Mitchell Robinson was maybe talking trash to him, and then maybe he was like, I can't hear you. And the next play, Mitchell Robinson comes and like elbows him in the neck, which I'm like, if the team wasn't down 1,000,000 points, I would have loved that. I would love to have done that a little bit earlier in the game. I was fine giving him a flagrant. He earned one. He needed one. That looked stupid. And then Victor, then he is pointing to like, I'm in your head, because he was. Because now he's giving a flagrant foul on a play that is just like, what are you doing? We're down 1,000,000 points. We cannot give them any more points. And add the ball back. We can't. Those are plays we can't have. Excuse me. Can't afford them. So I thought that I was fine with the action. Horrendous timing. And then Jose Alvarado does a leg sweep, which on Victor Wembanyama, and a play that he thought he got tripped by Wemby. Wemby's got these, he's got these big ass feet and big ass legs, so I could understand Jose Alvarado if he's behind you and you get tripped, you think maybe it was him. It actually ended up being Karl-Anthony Towns that tripped him. So then he goes and does a single leg takedown, which I'm like, what the hell? I'll be honest, that looked like a flagrant to me. I think Alvarado, to me, that felt like, because of how bad the refereeing was, that they just didn't want to give another flagrant and like make this bigger than it was, and also get that Garden crowd even more into a frenzy, and they were all over the refs, as they deserved to be. This was a terrible referee game. That just felt like nothing to see here. Let's just move on, because it clearly was a double leg takedown. They got Josh Hart on like a trip. It was a trip, and I'm not even mad it was a flagrant, but like to me it was like it just wasn't. It wasn't nearly as egregious as what Alvarado did. Let me just put it that way. Like to me the Alvarado thing was like very obvious. He's also kind of hit him in like the groin area. I'm like, I don't know how that's not a flagrant. So Knicks got kind of lucky with that. But again, I think the refs were like, we just can't give out another flagrant. Like, we got to just, no more flagrants. Let's just try to keep the game moving. This is already a blowout. I think they kind of also felt that too. And let's not let this Garden crowd or this game get out of hand with the frustration from the Knicks. So they didn't give a flagrant. Obviously, the Spurs probably wish they would have, because that maybe would have been a point in this game that made a difference had he got to shoot 2 free throws. and get the ball back. He did shoot 2 free throws. I think they were in the bonus anyway. But man, that was yeah. They're going into game 5, and it's insane to say, but the Knicks will go into game 5 with an opportunity to clinch an NBA championship. That is what is on the table for the team. They're going to need a lot more than this being the Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby show. I mean, combined, those guys scored 69 points. Nice. That is, I mean, that's not a recipe for the Spurs to win. Now, if we told them, well, they were up 29 points, they're probably like, wait, we were up 29 points and those guys scored a combined 69 points? That's what happened. For the Knicks, they're going to need, as great as it was to see OG play this well and Brunson get it going, they have to get Karl-Anthony Towns back involved again. The foul trouble definitely was a big key. He ended up with 13 and 10 in this one. Hopefully, less fouls. He could be more involved in the game. Like I said before, Mikal Bridges got to get back involved. Also, going back to that bench squad, Landry Shamet, I love Landry. You know, I'm a card-carrying member. I would dare I say maybe the OG member of the Landry Shamet Hive. These have been 2 bad games in a row. He just hasn't found the shot since he got to the Garden. Hopefully, going back to San Antonio, maybe that'll help him. The other thing, though, is these, non-impactful Deuce McBride minutes are also kind of killing them. 7 minutes to be minus 14 in a game like this is crazy. 7 minutes, minus 14, and that would have been way worse had the Knicks had not made this miraculous comeback. Who knows what that minus would have looked like. He is kind of killing them. He made some bad decisions. I thought some of the shots he was looking for. He's a guy that feels like he's searching for it right now. They tried to go to Clarkson. Clarkson made some boneheaded plays too. So it was like there was nowhere to go, basically. That's why Alvarado ended up playing so many minutes in the fourth quarter, because it was like, who else are you going to play in the second half? Deuce was terrible. Clarkson was terrible. Shamet was terrible. So those guys, the backup guards outside of Alvarado, those guys got to pick it up. They can't have the performances they had at MSG. Clarkson was good in game 3. But I think McBride and Shamet are going to be crucial to the Knicks finding a way to try to win on the road, because on the road, Brunson, Towns, and OG, they guys are going to give you as much as you can, but you're going to have to get some big shot making from somewhere else, and those guys are going to have to be ready to go. I also would assume, because of how well OG played and Brunson played, as silly as this may be, I don't think I would be trying to, again, put 2 on the ball and all that crazy stuff, but I think they will, which will probably give the Knicks opportunities for those other guys who have big games. They got to make their shots. They got to be ready to go. Again, Mitchell Robinson, I thought was terrible. The free throw shooting is still a problem. It's so bad that when the Knicks were in the bonus, it doesn't matter what time in the game it is. They just don't want him on the court. He was 1 for 5. He missed a bunch of. He did catch a big alley-oop in the second half, but he kept not catching these alley-oops or not finishing these alley-oops. Again, the defense. He did have 2 blocks. Everybody played better as the game went on, but for 3 quarters, this was a really rough Mitchell Robinson game too. So that whole bench unit, Alvarado, you get an A+, you were awesome. Everyone else, that performance is not going to get it done in game number 5. And then for the Spurs, man, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I think you tell yourself, listen, we played great. But I think they have to be honest with themselves. Here's what I would say if I was looking at this from the Spurs perspective. Now, the Knicks, you can't come into this game thinking the Spurs are going to just keep missing. They went back to how they normally are. That can't be part of your lexicon. But I think if you're the Spurs, I do think you have to tell yourself, we got a little too happy with the 3 ball. And it's like eating too much cotton candy. Cotton candy is really good for a few bites, but then once you start ODing on cotton candy because you think it tastes so good, all of a sudden you can't taste anything, your palate's blown out, your teeth are all green, and now they start hurting, and then oh, this actually doesn't taste that great now. That's what 3-point shooting is for the San Antonio Spurs. I thought that they just got way too comfortable with it. They tried to get fat off of only 3s when this is a team that their identity still is how they can bludgeon you in the paint. Fox, Castle, Harper, and Wembanyama. You'll get 3 balls off of that action in the paint because people will collapse in the paint, but those guys have to be trying to put pressure on the rim. the fact that they didn't, and like that's the one thing about this too. Like with the Knicks, for a while they had to play no bigs. Like they were playing small because again they had all these weirdo lineups out there, and they were still making threes. Also, another sign to show you that the Knicks really were not closing out well or guarding the ball well. But for the Knicks to have Karl Towns in foul trouble, they couldn't ever really exploit that. The Spurs are gonna have to get back to getting to the rim. Like I don't know. This shot diet is one that for the Knicks, as much as it was hurting them in the second half, first half. I'm sorry, you'll live with that shot diet. De'Aaron Fox threes and Dylan Harper threes. Yeah, as you see how dynamic they are at the rim. If I got to give up something, I'm gonna hope that those guys miss some threes. They just weren't missing in the first half. They missed pretty much every one in the second half. Saturday, man, what a monster day that's gonna be. And I listen. I'm gonna try to see if maybe I can record one episode before we get to the game. I don't want to wait maybe till that long before we get to Game 5. But it's gonna be crazy. What a series! I don't know if it's gonna end in 5 games. If it does, I would say this was still probably one of the best 5-game series I've ever seen. I mean, these are epic games that the Knicks are playing, and it's almost like because the Knicks won all of those blowout games, it was like the basketball guys were like, Knicks fans, you're not gonna just walk to an NBA championship. Like, okay, we let you walk through the Eastern Conference Finals, and to be honest, like you probably deserve that. Like you've been through too much pain. Let's not give them too much stress throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs. But once you get to the NBA Finals, they were like, you think this is gonna be simple? You think this is gonna be straightforward? It's the Knicks. Of course not. We're gonna put you through hell. I mean, I didn't know if I was gonna make it through that game. I was like, yo, this anxiety I'm feeling watching this game, and I'm sure you were feeling it as well, watching the game as well. It was unlike anything I've seen. I know, again, there are Giants fans, New York Giants fans. I'm not a Giant fan. There are Yankee fans who probably felt that. I'm not a Yankee fan. I felt anxiety as Mets fans, but never seen a win like that. So it's, I can't explain it. This is crazy. This is crazy. And the Knicks now, again, 1 win away from an opportunity to win an NBA championship. And, man, those guys going on that plane to San Antonio, lock in, man. Lock in. There is no tomorrow. It's 0-0, like they've been saying. And do not at all take this team for granted, them being the Spurs. Like, you have them right where you want them. This is a team that has expressed throughout the entire series overconfidence. It's overconfidence that I've expressed that I think has been naive and dismissive, and this overconfidence once again burned them, and now there is no doubt that they are questioning themselves after losing like that. I don't care what they tell you. You doubt yourself, and you question what's going on when you lose a game of that magnitude in that way. Do not let up. Do not let your foot off the gas. This is when you apply the most pressure, and let's see if they're able to stand up to what they just let up and bounce back, because it is going to take a monumental effort for them to get back and win this series. And even going home, getting a Game 5 after blowing it like that is going to be extremely tough. Extremely tough. Not impossible at all. And again, I'd like their chances better at home than on the road, but this is one that's really going to be something. I want you guys to hear a little bit from Mike Brown, because he's the only guy that I really wanted you guys to hear from that I didn't get to. So here was Mike Brown. Here is him talking about the OG Anunoby tip-in and saying what I said, basically. One of the most historic plays in the history of New York sports. Here is Knicks head coach Mike Brown.
Exceptional is that?
It's unbelievable. The tip, how he had to control it and tip it in from. I mean, like I said, that has to be the most iconic shot in the history of New York basketball. I mean, I'm not you guys know better than me, but it was just unbelievable. Jalen played the whole half. OG didn't, but we rode those guys, and they did a fantastic job of trying to play both ends of the floor.
trying to play fast while trying to give it to us defensively.
Yeah, I'm glad he talked about both ends of the floor too, because the Spurs were also, when they kind of just completely lost their way offensively, the thing they tried to get to was, let's hunt Brunson and see if we can find money there. And Brunson did a really good job of he blew one coverage where there was a switch and he didn't switch, but outside of that, he didn't allow them to. The guys that were on the ball, I think, did a good job of being pesky as well. So I'm glad he mentioned that it wasn't just for OG, it's always a two-way effort. And again, we mentioned he's talking about the shot. I will tell you, the block is going to be the play that's also going to be completely forgotten. But one of the most incredible plays also in the history of Knicks basketball, especially because of what it led up to. OG's a legend. Like this, I don't know how to describe it. OG Anunoby, you are a New York basketball and New York sports legend. Congratulations. And one of the things about this game that also was a big storyline, and I'm sure a lot of y'all had maybe some tweets, maybe some posts on Facebook and IG and whatever you're at. Probably Harry has some drafts that are not too kind to one James Dolan. But I'm not gonna front. It's just on one right now. I don't know what's going on with him, but he just is doing the most, and it's not flattering. He doesn't look great in this. There is a part of me that's like, him doing this in a weird way, I do think shows how excited and proud he is of this team. But he can't help himself, and he's not really helping the team. And there's a lot of, he's fighting with the mayor, he's fighting with the NYPD, he's defending, and I'm not saying he's not his right to defend Trump, but a lot of people are mad about Trump being here, and he's talking about how Trump was great, Trump wasn't asleep. He's just doing the most. I'm like, what got this team here was minimal distraction and you not saying anything, and now you have not stopped talking basically for 3 days. Whether it's through statements through the press or you shout out to WFAN, shout out to my team, and my friends and my family over there, and shout out, of course, to the Craig Carton show, because what an interview. What a job to get James Dolan to actually come on WFAN before Game 4. So from our standpoint, from a business standpoint, love what we did at WFAN. From a Knicks fan standpoint, and as someone who's rooting for the Knicks, I'm looking at the owner, I'm like, what are you doing, bro? One of those things he also said was he guaranteed they were going to win this game. He was like, I came here, and to his credit, he was not wrong. He came there to the show, was in January, and said that he believes the Knicks, the Knicks have what it takes to get to the NBA Finals. He expects them to get to the NBA Finals, and he did. So he said, I've been right with my predictions every time I've come on here, which is only one. He's like, but I'm going to use that one instance to make another prediction, and that they're going to win this game and win the NBA championship. So when they're down 29, I'm sure a lot of you had some not so kind things to say about James Dolan, and a lot of y'all just let it fly. I was looking at social media, I'm like, they're just barbecuing the owner of the Knicks. But he did guarantee a win. Didn't look likely, but they did win. Mike Brown was asked about the guarantee, and here's what he said.
Before the game, your team owner did an interview with WFAN where he essentially guaranteed victory tonight and in the series. Were you aware of that before the game? And what was your reaction to it? And if you weren't, what's your reaction to hearing that now?
No, I wasn't aware of it. He owns a team. He can say whatever he wants to say. Maybe he feels something. I don't know, but I'm 100% okay with him saying whatever he feels like he needs to say.
I mean, yeah, that's his boss. I don't know. I really don't know what else you wanted to say there. Mike Brown's like, yeah, whatever. As long as he's writing my checks, we're all good. And they did win the game, so that was a good thing. Again, no question about that. Also, last thing I'll play for you guys, man, before we get out of here. Karl-Anthony Towns and Jose Alvarado, again, two key, guys in that comeback victory. They both admitted to, being emotional, because you saw it. Like, Karl-Anthony Towns looked like he was about to be in tears or was in tears as that clock hit 0 and the Knicks had won. Here's Quality Towns talking about that.
Just kind of what were you feeling? Did you even realize what's happening?
No, I've seen people leave before the game was over in MSG, watching on MSG Network before. I think for me, you could see my reaction, the emotion. It kind of spilled out of that moment. It was tears of joy, just, it wasn't boo-hooing or anything, but just tears of joy because, like I said, all you could do is ask for a chance. And for me personally, I just wanted one break in life, and I got one. I got one at that last play with OG making the shot and us getting the stop. I just wanted one break in life, just one thing to go my way one time, and I'm glad it did. I'm glad it did for us, man. But God is good, man.
You said it. 2 kids from here, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I was about to cry. Not because, obviously, we just want more. But I'm in Madison Square Garden in the fourth quarter playing with these guys, and we playing for something special. Mm-hmm. It's just as excited. It really something I couldn't put in words. And like I said, we could get excited and enjoy this, but we got one more to do. For sure.
I mean, yeah, the emotions were real. I mean, people in the Garden were crying again. I was almost on the verge of tears when OG's tip-in went in. Like, it was. You can understand it. It was something that was special. The reality, though, and I'm always going to keep it 100, is this team has to find a way to come back down. They have to come back down. Just like the Spurs struggled to come back down, and Victor Wembanyama admitted that. They struggled to come back down from winning the Western Conference Finals, where Victor Wembanyama is in tears, and like people were criticizing him for it. I mean, listen, it's his raw emotion. It's how he feels. Like I didn't get really criticizing him for his emotion. What I would say is, it's gonna be tough you gotta remember that there's more to do, and that's your emotion. That's your emotion. But just know that the challenge that is in front of you is just as hard, if not harder. In fact, it will be harder. And if you have this much emotion in this, it makes you wonder, like, how in check are you with your emotions? Because you're gonna have to be able to come down and make important plays, use your brain, all those different things, in crunch time, clutch situations again, in even a bigger pressure cooker. So if you're reacting like that, it's just a kind of, I don't want to warn them, but it's just like, just think about that. And that's the same thing I'll tell the Knicks. The same thing I'll tell Jose Alvarado and Karl-Anthony Towns. Like, as great as this win was, it did not clinch the NBA Finals. And I put them in the driver's seat and put them in a great position, but it did not clinch the NBA Finals. And if they lose the series, we tend to still think about plays and games that happened, even when it ended in heartbreak. We talk about the Andy Chavez catch. We talk about Bart Scott. Can't wait. We talk about some of these things. So the play in the game will always still live forever. But if you want it to really be the moment that it's supposed to be, which is unlike the Andy Chavez play, that should have been a play that you think would have won the championship for the Mets, or at least got to the World Series. You gotta find a way to flush this game and get to the next thing. Whichever team finds a way to move on from this next game better will put themselves in a position to win. It's not the only thing that has to happen. They have to make shots. They have to execute. They have to watch the film, and there's technical things, of course. But another factor in this is who can put the last game behind them faster, and who can put it behind them more effectively. The team that does that, they'll be in a good position to win. I think that's a good place to leave it. Wow, what a game! What a show! Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was a little longer than the other ones, but I think it deserved it. It's probably some rambling because I'm still in shock about what happened. But we're going to bed. Recording this Wednesday night into Thursday morning. I'm gonna tell you literally the time is 1:37 a.m. in the morning. That's how long I'm up right now. We're going to bed with the Knicks one win away from the NBA Finals, and we have this sleep. Well, you've already woken up by now probably, but for you guys, 2 more sleeps until the Knicks play for an NBA championship. And I mean, I say play for the NBA championship, not like they're playing in the finals like they have the last 4 games. A game where if they win the NBA championship. What a time, man. What a time. That's going to do it for Orange and Blue Bloods. If you enjoy these episodes, make sure you subscribe to Orange and Blue Bloods wherever you get your podcast. When you're there, also hit the auto download feature. Also, give me a 5-star review. Also, be sure to check us out on YouTube, New Generation Media. Just search New Generation Media. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video because we posted full episodes on YouTube. Also, follow me on social media, EJ_Stewart on X, Action EJ on Instagram and TikTok, EJ205 Prep on Buzzer. We'll be back. I think we're going to have a Game 5 preview. I would assume so. I would keep your eyes peeled for that. So stay subscribed. Keep it locked here. And I'll see you in a bit. Go Knicks.